This is from AJ, who asks, do you have any thoughts on 75 hard? Is it worth doing? And maybe a quick context of what 75 hard is, which I think maybe many people have heard of, but maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had to look it up. I mean, out of the gates, I just want people to know that I have not done it. So this is also kind of what I gleaned from the website and the welcome email. From the website, it's a mental toughness program. It's not considered a fitness program. And it's the goal of developing confidence, self-esteem, fortitude. And again, what they say on the website is that people often feel like they're kind of drifting through life. And the real problem is that they just lack mental toughness and discipline. And so the rules of 75 hard are, one, they have to follow a diet. It can be the diet of their choice, which is very interesting. We're going to talk about that. But it must be a structured plan designed with a physical improvement in mind. They also have to complete 2 45-minute workouts, and one of those workouts must be outside. No alcohol or cheat meals. Take a progress picture every day. Drink 1 gallon of water. Read 10 pages of a book. Those are both every day. And then if you miss a day, you have to start back at day 1. Of course, the goal is to get to 75 consecutive days. So that's the program. And I think people might be a little surprised at my opinion. I think it's pretty darn good. Cool. Remarkably good in the overall grand scheme of things. I mean, think about all the BS stuff out there, the product we're going to talk about next. All the diet hacks, butter and coffee. I'm like, okay, I get this. I get this one. The overall point is basically commit to doing some really basic habits that are meaningful. And, do I love all of the requirements? No, I'd throw out the drink a gallon of water a day immediately and maybe just replace that with drink only water as the beverage you consume.
Yep.
But I can see a lot of good in each of these concepts. Do I actually think people need 2 45-minute workouts a day? I don't. I think people just need to be consistent with one. But what I like about the 2 45-minute workouts is, just look at the amount of time that we spend scrolling on our phone. I'm sure many of us can fit in more exercise than we think initially, right? So sometimes putting more constraints on your time actually shows you how much time you have. And I think probably parents realize that quite quickly. I learned that a little bit with a puppy, not quite the same extent. And I also think the 75-day thing is good too, right? Like we aren't going to see results in 2 days. We're not going to see, 10 pounds in a week. Settle in, work hard, be consistent. And hey, let's check in 2+ months. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So all of these targets kind of at first glance, I think are very livable. They're not in the realm of crazy and all of that stuff. I think though, to make it really valuable, it's going to come down to kind of some of those choices that people make within the structure. The devil's in the details, right? I would not recommend both 45-minute workouts or hero CrossFit workouts.
Yep.
We're going to have to be kind of smart about intensity and activities, especially depending on what your volume is coming into this. I would consider walking your dog for 45 minutes, one of the workouts, but maybe that wouldn't be tough enough or something like that.
I think actually I've heard people say that counts as, I think, because one of them has to be outside. I think you said that, right? And so I think that I don't know, and I'm with you. I haven't done it. I've only got a very loose sense of what it is. But I feel like people, when I've seen other people talking about it, people coming to the defense of like a 45-minute walk outside checks two of those boxes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's great if it does. So yeah, we have to watch kind of volume and intensity in the exercise selection. And I think probably the one where it can get a little off kilter the most is, what is the diet did you select? Yep. What diet did you select? And, with the 75 hard is sort of the messaging, I can see people choosing a super low calorie, super restrictive elimination diet. They get to day 5 or day 6, and then they end up binging. They have to restart, not because they need, quote, more fortitude, but they rather just need a little more sanity in their diet choices.
Yep.
So if somebody were to pick the 800-gram challenge or lazy macros, or even macros, but at an appropriate target, great. Let's do it. Let's do 75 days of that. I think that's awesome. I actually just heard this on kind of a newsletter discussion, but I think one of the main criticisms of things like this, nutrition challenges, is that after the 75 days, many people go right back to what they did before. I hear you. That happens even with the best laid nutrition plans and coaches. People fall off the plan all the time.
Yeah.
People fall off the plan after having one-on-one, customized, highly individualized attention, right? There is no perfect plan for the forever.
Yeah. Nothing that fixes it forever. Yeah.
There's nothing that fixes it forever. And if you think that you're like, specifically designed habit plan is always going to have a much higher retention than something like this, I think you probably haven't been around long enough, a little bit of a reality check there. Now, so long as the challenge isn't something really silly and extreme, like, you're going to eat way too little and all these other things. But this is basically exercise and stick to a diet for 75 days, in my opinion. I mean, read 10 pages a day. That's not a huge volume. The water's a little whatever, but you know what I mean? Like, it's very much in the realm of the things that we talk about all the time.
Totally. Two little things. The first one is what popped in my head as you were talking about the rules is there's to me at least a little similarity between what we've talked about in a recent episode. I think it was with the Mind diet, in the sense of like, normally restrictions lead to not very good places, but these particular restrictions are right on that kind of that challenge skill line, in the sense of like, they're hard enough to make you have to pay attention to them, but they're not so hard that you fail at them and therefore, kind of go backwards in terms of just your own mentality of like, I suck at this. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it anymore. Yeah. And so do you think that that's part of it, is like, yes, individually, like these are all generally hard, but they're not so hard that they are impossible. And therein lies kind of the magic of it, where it pushes people, but not so far that most people can't do it.
Yeah, totally. I think they're all very reasonable. Again, the 2 45-minute things, it's like, I am sure people have I don't say everybody, right? There are people who don't, but there's a lot of people who spend 45 minutes scrolling on their phone for no real reason, right? Past what they thought it was. So I think they're all very reasonable. What's interesting is one of the rules is that absolutely no alcohol or cheat meals. I certainly think we can go 75 days without alcohol. The cheat meals is interesting in the sense of, again, what diet did you set up what diet did you set up? And if your diet was no sugar, I think you can get through 75 days. I do think that type of restriction won't be as successful for people. And so it's like, okay, I am going to do macros, and I'm going to stick to macros that are not putting me into extreme caloric deficit. And within the macros, I'm going to eat relatively healthy, and I still work in the donut. Great. We've got a great 45-day plan, right? But like no cheat meals in the sense of I'm not going to go out on Saturday and just eat everything. I'm like, okay, that's not bad. So I think, again, just depending a little bit on how the application is of what they choose and what they're considering within the rule structure is really going to set it up for success. With some of that, what you're saying, it's like some of the magic is that there is a little bit of liberty to make this very normal and very doable.
Yeah. And which actually leads me to the second little point, which is what you said, which is what you're talking about with the diet and the choice. And what popped in my head is a lot of people are now probably working out, let's just call it 2 times as much as they were before. Because even if you were getting a couple workouts in a week, now doing 2 workouts, even if that workout's a 45-minute, 60-minute walk, you're now doing twice as much work than you were on a regular basis. And now you're also going to probably try to do some calorie restrictive or at least like willpower restrictive diet on top of it.
Totally.
To me, that's if I had to guess, that's where people fail.
Totally.
Is they can commit to the workouts or the working out, the moving more, but they pair that with something that is 1, hard already, but 2, doubly hard when you're also just exerting so much more energy than you normally do.
Totally. That's a great point, that they're probably going to pick a diet based off of their current experience. And yet now they're going to up the volume significantly. Why am I so hungry? Why can't I stick to this? Well,
right. Okay, totally. Cool. Love that.